didn't make 4. And I don't know why they would do that, but just 2 and 2 just didn't make 4. Well, finally Eric calls and he says, could we get together and talk? Well, we knew he wanted to try to buy us, and so when we knew we probably wanted to try to buy him, I didn't know if we could get the money. But they needed to make a decision. They'd been losing market share for several years. Their stores in Oklahoma City aren't as nice as the ones that were in Tulsa, and they kept dilly-dallying around, and it finally got to the point where we started remodeling our stores and got them all situated. And by the time the whole thing finally came down, we only needed one of them, or only wanted one of them, and it's too small. It's at 15th and Lewis, and we're scratching our head right now because we don't have enough space to offer the people what they want in the area. We're trying to figure out if we can poke a hole in the wall and see if the city will give us a variance so we can put a cooler or do something, you know. We just can't do the produce the way we want. So we're always rethinking those kind of things. But Eric shows up, and we met in what's now the Radisson across from 41st and Garnett one Sunday afternoon, and talked for about 4 hours, and he finally said, probably no surprise, he said, we'd like to talk about buying you all. And we had 14 stores, I think, at the time. And he said, would you guys entertain anything like that? And of course, we knew what he wanted, and we had already prepped for it and had done a little bit. And my dad said, he said, well, that's kind of interesting because we thought we might buy you. He just kind of grinned and sat back in his chair, and we kept on talking. And he said, well, can you come up with $20 to $50 million? And I remember my dad looking around at our CFO was with us, Darrell Buck, and me, and he said, unfortunately, yes, we can. You know? So anyway, we talked a little bit longer there, and what reason it didn't come about is because they were trying to figure out what they wanted to do in Oklahoma. They had problems in Texas and Oklahoma and Louisiana, and they really needed to do something that kind of took all the stores in. They didn't want to just, well, what about just eastern Oklahoma or East I-35, I think is the way we put it to him. And, you know, so we went back and forth on a couple of different things. They decided not to sell. I sit on the board of AWG, which is a third largest wholesaler in the nation now, and sit on the finance committee as well, and it came back up again, and that's usually where those contacts are made, and that's the way this one came down. They came back and said, okay, now we want to sell. So anyway, we got to see the numbers, and we finally got more serious about it, and then the first time it didn't pan out, and then the second time we kept bidding on stores. We had the store in Bartlesville, we had the store in a bunch of them in Tulsa bought at one time, Muskogee, there was a variety of them, and then they backed out again. And the third time, by the time they got around to the third time, the only one we wanted was 15th and Lewis, because it's kind of filled a niche that we felt like we needed. And so that's how it kind of came about. So a lot of things. Now that's over a course of about 3 or 4 or 5 years to get to that point. I got so tired of looking at numbers that from them every time they brought it up, I said, well, if they're serious. I said, is there somebody we can call? Because I want to ask if they're serious. I'm getting tired of like Patton, you know. I tell people at the store, I don't know if Jill, you heard it, if you die on the job, you better fall forward because I'm not backing up to get anybody. We're going to pull you forward, okay? We're going to keep moving forward. And that's kind of the way I was with Albertson, you know, if they, see if they were really real about it. But there's all this constant turmoil that's taking place. And it's gonna sort out, and I don't know where the grocery business is headed. I gotta be honest with you. I got some ideas. We got some things we're doing. I think last time that we spoke up here, we talked about fuel as an example. We've been in the fuel business a year and a half. I talked Chet Calico. Chet Calico was somebody I played football with. Chet Cadjo with Quick Trip, and his dad. Quick story there. My dad and Chester Cadjo, who owns Quick Trip, were both working with Scrivener with wholesalers. They both loaded up one time and went to Dallas to work at a 7-Eleven for a week or so to learn the business. Okay, this was in between this Muskogee broken arrow thing. So they loaded up, they go to Dallas, worked in convenience stores, set stores, worked all the shifts, did all that kind of stuff. Well, they came back. My dad said he didn't like it. He didn't care for the convenience store business. Chester said he thought he would stick it out, maybe give it a go. Okay, So anyway, kind of an interesting little, once again, you got some people kind of touching in the past there that maybe you never thought, you never know. I mean, you never know. I see people in the store all the time. Like I said, I don't care if they're purple, green, orange with blue spots. I don't care what they are. They are customers to me, and I try to speak to as many of them as I can. I try to treat them all just the way I'd like to be treated, because you never know who they're going to be or what they're going to turn out to be. Y'all ever heard of a guy named Garth Brooks? Anybody ever heard of him? Went to Oklahoma State. He's a customer up at our North Store in Owasso, Tricia. In fact, I got to talk to Tricia because I read an article in Wasn't Good Housekeeping. It was one where she wrote a cookbook, and she was bragging on us in the cookbook about all these items she got at her favorite grocery store, but she didn't even mention me. She's a good gal. I haven't met her personally, but our manager knows her personally. She comes in her jogging suit and her ball cap, and they're just regular folks. But anyway, the reason I mentioned Garth is I believe, and this is what I want to confirm, I believe Garth is named after the guy who was the market manager when my dad bought the store here in Tahlequah. His name was Brooks. And I've had a couple of people tell me that, so I want to go get that story confirmed. So if we can just keep that in the room, okay? Keep that in the room, we'll go from there. But there's a lot of things going on. Like I said, we did the fuel thing. It's hard to say. I sat down with Chet, we talked about it because we didn't want to invest all the capital putting in the convenience stores. So you guys already have that established. We've zoomed past Albertsons. We've got the grocery side. What can we do here? Because Walmart was putting in fuel too, and he was keenly aware of that. And he wanted to. And trust me, he wanted to get his shots in if he thought he could. So we were trying to figure out, well, how can we do that? But in the end, he didn't feel like that was something he wanted to do. They kind of had their own thing in doing it, and I don't know if it wasn't an IT issue, it wasn't computer issues or anything like that. It was just more of a marketing philosophy issue, I think, that kept them from wanting to do that. But I don't know, it may come back up again. It may come back up again. Well, so I think, like I said, I kind of had a start, kind of had a middle. We could go on. There's 2 shows nightly. Don't forget to tip your waitresses. Okay? And so anyway.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to
Thank you. Thank you.
no shameless promotion.
Appropriately wrapped. We went to a great expense to wrap this gift. I had a late meeting, unfortunately, but I heard most of the presentation from the back. And for those of you that have never met Jeff Reasor before and learned about the legacy of the Reasor stores, I had a son that grew up sort of just behind where Jeff's administrative headquarters is now, when it was a neighborhood store. And it's a real story about small-town Oklahoma having a much broader vision. And I just loved hearing his stories and remembering his family. On behalf of this institution, and particularly on behalf of our series, the Battenfield-Carletti Distinguished Entrepreneur Lecture Series for the College of Business and Technology, it's a great personal pleasure, as well as being president of the institution, to present Jeff Reasor with this Diamond Award, February 23rd, 2009. Jeff?
Thank you. Appreciate it very much. We got a photo op. Yeah. Thank you, Park. Appreciate it.